So, welcome to Triple T, number 110. 110 of these things. Holy smokehouse. And here we are, February 2nd, 2024. My name is TJ Zebel. I like to refer to myself as a professional problem solver, and I always get followed up with, no, I don't know all the answers. I just have a unique way of asking questions to help people get to the answers they're looking for. I have a website, which is thetswb.com, thetallskinnywhiteboy.com. Yes, that is what it stands for. And I offer a free 30-minute consultation. That's your opportunity to get 30 minutes of my time to chit-chat about anything you want. I help people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, getting a lot of relationship and dating stuff lately. I also provide corporate coaching and work with athletes from beginner all the way up to the professional level, among many, many other things, but we won't get into those right now. I see what else. YouTube. I do have a YouTube channel, and hopefully there are some of you getting to watch this live on YouTube. If you are watching it live, please make sure that you've clicked the subscribe button and ring the bell and all the stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me get a little more presence and traction out there in the world of internet. And something we started this year, different tie for each show. So tonight's tie is brought to you by bugs.
When you said bugs, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, got you, didn't I?
Yes.
Well, you wet it. All right. And for those of you that are here all the time, being I got a little rattled getting on, did I miss anything? Hopefully that's good. Anybody got anything they want to share from the last 7 days since we were all here together? Lenora?
I do. Last Thursday, I got the amazing opportunity to speak at the Take Action Now Summit, which was put on by the Inspired Choices Network. And it was a super cool time. And I did an extension of my TED Talk. So my TED Talk was 16 minutes and 45 seconds, I think was the total run time. And this one had to be 24 minutes. And I was super pumped because I got all the way to the very end and the timing was excellent. And the exciting news is I actually have it in the chat. So if you guys want to listen to it at any point, you're welcome to it. So I'm going to post it in the chat for you all.
Hey, there we go.
I'm super excited.
Awesome sauce. Proud of you.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Yes. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you may not be able to see it, so join us here on Zoom weekly. Then you can get access to all the chat answers and questions and links. And for those of you watching the recording, you're welcome to join us as well. And you don't even have to know how to spell NLP. We allow anybody on these calls because we want feedback from all levels. All questions and topics are welcome, and especially for the second hour. So those of you on the call, I hope you have your questions and topics ready for the second hour. So, this week's topics, being we're running a little behind with all the tech issues. This week's topics: getting hijacked, throwaway love, and toxic happiness. Anybody want to take a stab at getting hijacked? What does that mean to you?
When you mentioned the topics, I didn't get to see Facebook, and I was like, "What? He saw them." Getting hijacked. I feel like we're going to talk about something about our emotional states getting hijacked, and if they occur when we hijack our own emotional states.
It's a great guess. Getting dysregulated, Mike added. The reason I like to ask these is I like to see if there's other ways that I can take the conversation. But if you look closely at how I spelled it, it's on purpose. And for those of you that are, again, watching live on YouTube or watching the recording, you didn't get to see that part, but it's in reference to my triple P protocol for dating for people that are looking for their king or their queen. And they get hijacked by somebody that's very close. They're even better than a 10, but there's something about them that just keeps them from being the queen or the king. So they're a hijack. And because they're so close, it ends up being that toss-up. Do I stick around? Do I keep them? What is it about them that's not? What are my three brains saying about this person? And for those of you that missed out on the other ones, you can check the prior recordings, look for three brain. I'm not going to go into it in depth right now, but heart brain, gut brain, head brain, and they get a little, yeah, but they're so close. One of the things I found out is we're willing to allow close to be acceptable in the wants, in the needs. But close is not acceptable in violations of values and criteria. One of the things we know, one of the easiest ways to get rid of people is to figure out their values and criteria and violate them. And so if they're a hijack, what's holding them back? What is it that keeps them from being a queen or a king? And most often than not, it's because it's something linked to a value and criteria that's important. And values and criteria can change over time, especially when you look at them and study them and go, well, why is this important to me? And you find out that, well, it's because, that was my parents' values and criteria, or that was my best friend's deal, and we kind of made a pact. And you look at it today and you're like, oh, well, maybe that's something I could change or move around. Or as you go through growth, you can understand that it was simply an anchor that still affects you, but it isn't. When you finally pull it out into the open, into the light, it's not worth it anymore. And Kevin, hijacked is the complement to hijacked. yes. One of the other things a client that I'm working with right now is in that terrible part of a relationship where they're going to marriage counseling with the strong potential for divorce. And dealing with another form of being hijacked. Because they were once the other person's king and queen, but things have shifted. And now they're not meeting that status anymore. Things have changed. And in scenarios like that, you have to look at it and decide, what happened, what portion of this belongs to me, what portion of it belongs to them. The portion that belongs to them, what is it? Why does it affect me? And back again, making sure that your relationship isn't getting hijacked. Any input, ahas, questions on this so far?
I just thought it was really interesting. I never, I see how, especially when you're talking about the king and the queen and how it relates, getting hijacked and getting pulled, they're getting demoted or somebody's getting demoted, something's changing. So I think it's a really interesting play on your king and queen dating protocol.
Thanks.
And how it shifts. Yeah.
Appreciate that input. And that's why, Holly.
You can finish what you were saying.
No, go ahead, please.
Oh, I did have kind of a follow-up question on it because it makes a lot of sense. But this kind of goes to that, how do you find that balance of, first of all, how do you even know who your jacks and your queens and kings are until you experience these things and get to know people and have those experiences? And then how do you know the difference between I'm learning who my king and queen is versus I'm too afraid to give up the jack because it's so close. So I'm not even going to pursue my king and queen because I'm so caught up in my jack. But then also on top of that, that goes kind of back to that question of how do I balance, settling for my jack versus I actually have my king or queen, but I'm looking for, what I call the unicorn that doesn't actually exist. I'm not sure where the balance is on all of that, but
Great question. I'm so glad you asked because that was right where I was headed. That's why it's so important to have your journal of your person. And it's not everything that you like about them. It has to be these are all of the haves, but it also has to have these are the not haves. That's why I pointed out that right away is so often we as humans are willing to give up the haves. And some of them are quite negotiable. Oh, he's 6'2". And then you meet somebody who has a whole bunch of stuff, but they're 5'11". You're like, close enough. But in the can't haves in your values and criteria, doesn't smoke. You find out that they're a smoker. People will put up with not meeting the haves, but more often than not, the have-nots, you can only put up with them for so long before they will deteriorate and get on your nerves. Or, you know, if you say they can't be a smoker, but they're super charming and they're 90% of your have list, you're like, well, I can overlook it. It won't take long until that's the fingernail on the fingernail on the chalkboard type of a deal breaker, and that would make them a hijack. They've got everything, but God, he smokes and just it stinks, and then and he's probably gonna die early, and then you find out that other little things that irritate you are amplified because you're already irritated by one violation of values and criteria. And so that journal of this is my person has to be done through research. And that's why I tell, especially my clients that are in the Triple P protocol, because it's a 1-year program, that it's very important for them to go back through everything in their journal at least once a week. Things will change, things will stand out. As you interact with other people and you notice things about them, you add that to your journal. Lenora.
I love what you said about going back each week, because I was thinking to write down, even thinking about the people that you dated or the people that you would have liked to date, and thinking about the qualities that were most enjoyable to you, that you really thought were wonderful and that they really shined about. And then even thinking about the qualities that you weren't keen on, to help clarify more of what you're looking for, I think would help give more clarity of what is negotiable for you and what is non-negotiable for you. I agree. Smoking would have been a non-negotiable for me. Random things like my husband has a habit of putting the dishes on the side of the sink versus in the sink. And it's one of those things that when you first start meeting somebody, you're like, well, that's weird. And it's stupid stuff like that. Is that a breakable thing for some people? It might be. For me, it wasn't. And it's one of those things that you acclimate to. So I think just really getting clear on where are you willing to negotiate and where are you not willing to negotiate. If they're going to be out late really all the time and you like to go to sleep early, is that something that's going to impact your relationship?
Yes, absolutely. We got some great questions here in the chat. Mike dropped in. How do you know if you first find someone who you think is a high king until you find someone better, now reduced to a jack, then you may or may not be able to hold on to that king? Yeah, what she said. What if you think you're a high king, but she's thinking you're a high jack and giving you grace for your shortcomings? Then Maurice asked, what if they were a have now there and have not? Now they are drinking, smoking, gambling, especially that they did not at the time you got together. That's part of the changing process. Where does the grace enter the relationship? And that's part of, I have 3 clients right now that are currently in relationships. And one of the things that is blowing one of my clients' minds is the power of manifestation in writing down in the journal. They told me specifically that they know their partner doesn't know where that journal is. Can't get to it. If they thought that this person could have had access to it, they would have accused them of reading it and changing. Power of manifestation. That's another reason why it's so important to write it down. It also with the communication, like with what Maurice brought up is, somewhere down the line, they decided to pick up a habit that is offensive, smoking. People change. And as Lillian Pearl Bridges pointed out with her great metaphor of people in relationships, and what she called the mistake of thinking that once you get married, the two become one. No, the two are still two, joined together by an agreement. The metaphor she used was paddling down the river of life. And when you're born, you're still in your own canoe, but you're reliant on your parents to tug you until you're strong enough to paddle. And then you're like, oh, I've got this, I know everything. And then you find out you don't know everything, and you tip your canoe over a few times, and your parents have to pull your dumb butt out and put you back in your canoe. And then you finally get away from them, and then you start meeting people, and you're like, hey, nice canoe. Want to paddle together for a while? And then you finally find that somebody, and you promise to paddle next to them for the rest of your life down the river. You don't climb into one or the other's canoe. You're still in your own canoes, which is why sometimes if you don't work on the relationship, it's easy to drift apart. And there are a lot of tributaries, and there's a lot of stuff on the river of life. And you can go through some fog, and all of a sudden the fog lifts, and you're like, where the hell? And they're on the other side of a block, whether that be, you don't know if it's just a 3-foot section of tall reeds, or if it's a 100-foot or 1 mile chunk of land. But you have to decide, is it worth the work to try and figure out how to get back together? And that's part of why I put Triple P together, because I'd been through a number of relationships, and some of them were long-term relationships, and was even engaged once. And I finally had to go, oh, what was the common denominator? Oh, that'd be me. Yep. And that's where a lot of these protocols, a lot of this stuff comes from. And paying attention to what has happened to friends, family, acquaintances, all that stuff. It's all research. Well, this is part of what Triple P protocol is about, is researching and documenting what's important to you so you can analyze why. I met him, and the other thing that just popped into my head, lovely squirrel delivered it, is we all, whether we want to admit it or not, have that little romance writer inside of us that's watched a couple of rom-coms, whatever, and it wants to keep writing the end of the story as soon as we meet somebody. And that's why a lot of people will get attached early on in a relationship because they're like, oh, and inside that little romance writer's like, and the picket fence and the 1.5 dogs and the 1.7 cars and everything's going to be perfect. And then all of a sudden they show something and that writer's like, what? Oh, dude, really? Oh, but did you hear what he said then? Okay, well, okay, now story back on. We're good. We're good. Oh, you smoke? Oh, I don't know where I'm going to write that. It didn't know that doesn't fit in here. Dude, seriously? Oh, he said he could quit? Okay. Story's back on. Picket fence. And where does the grace enter the relationship? That's not a black and white answer. How long have you been paddling down the river? What kind of things have you gone through? What have you survived? What are you willing to put up with? And what are you willing to do to yourself for the relationship? I heard it put really well once, what do you think a relationship is in ratio? What's the ratio to relationship? And a lot of people were like, well, it's 50-50. No. Well, it's 60-40. You got to be able to give a little more than the other person. No. Best answer I heard, it's 100-100. You have to give and push, and you have to look in the mirror, and you have to make assessments of both in the party. Lenore.
I love that you said 100-100, and I think also not only giving to the other person, but also learning how to give to yourself. I think one of the greatest things that I've ever done for myself is personal growth and working with coaches and teachers to understand where I was having my thought processes from, and were they valid? Were they appropriate? I used to have this really terrible habit of screaming and getting really angry, and it wasn't helpful. It wasn't beneficial. And both my husband and I had to learn the art of disagreement, the art of fighting with each other, and knowing when you're willing to fight and when you're also willing to how to fight. You can't run around like a stark raving lunatic. Apparently that's not very polite. I've learned that the hard way, but I've learned it. So.
And that, I'm so glad you brought that up. Worded perfectly. Learn how to argue with each other, learn how to fight. I've seen a number of relationships end in the tragic fiery crash at the very end because neither one of them wanted, they were both non-confrontational and didn't want to talk about the hard subjects until it was too late. Savo.
Hi. I would like to say something about this. I was thinking this morning about exactly what you were talking about, relationships. And before I say anything about that, I also want to point out, I wrote down what you said earlier. The easiest way to get rid of people is figuring out their values and violating them. Kind of opposite of building rapport. And I heard that before, but I think like this time it really clicked. So thank you for that. And yeah. And so this is what I thought about. If you want to be successful in relationship with your partner, and other people as well, and yourself as well. So I said to myself, if you want to be successful in relationships, be eager to hear judgment about yourself, both from other people and from yourself, without fighting back. And so that curiosity about the judgment, I think, is really something that opens up just a world of possibility and the potential for self-improvement. And so it's not like, okay, I'm going to say my judgment so that, I'm going to hear her judgment so I can say my judgments to
Yep.
about that or about the person. It's more like, oh, I really want to hear what you have to say. So maybe there is some, maybe there is something even remotely important for actually my growth. And so I'm going to listen carefully, and I might take some time after that. But that also starts from like letting go of ego, which is, I think, edging God out. And so if we don't edge God out, we are not really separated from anybody or anything. And then we can get this great input and become so much bigger and better connecting. And I really think that's the key, because everything else is just fighting and creating more of the layers of protection that might not really be necessary.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that, Savo.
Thank you, brother.
Anybody else got anything they want to add to that? Holly.
I've had a few thoughts about, we talk about how does grace come into this? What are non-negotiables, sort of thing. And one of the things that I kind of thought about too is a lot of it, we definitely should have our non-negotiables, know what they are, that sort of thing. But I think a lot of things also are about the attitude we take towards each other. And are we willing, for the right person who is being reasonable, let's say that they are a smoker, but you talk about it and you realize, some things that you might think are non-negotiable, there might be a way that you can negotiate. But it matters, do they care? Do they see how much it bothers you? And do they say, you know what, this is a center part of me, but I get that you don't want your house to smell like cigarettes. I get that you don't want your car to smell like cigarettes. So here's the deal. I'll smoke when I'm out with my friends. If I want to smoke, when I'm on a regular day, I will make sure I go outside somewhere that is not going to make your clothes smell like this. It's not going to make your house smell like this. It's not going to make your car smell like this. And if they actually honor that, and they can see how much, you might find something that was non-negotiable if you actually are two people who care about each other and have reasons to be in the relationship. Or, like say they love gambling and you think gambling's bad. Well, maybe you could say, hey, as long as you're not gambling away our mortgage payment, we will have part of our budget is fun money. And I'm going to use my fun money to go to Disneyland. If you want to use your fun money to go to Vegas and gamble with it, that's okay, because you're not ruining our relationship with it, if that makes sense. So I think if, there's a big difference between, is this impacting our relationship versus can we find a way, not that we're lying about it, but that we could genuinely both be okay and still let you be who you want to be without me controlling you, but still find a way that we can coexist in a way that is negotiated. So anyway, just some kind of thoughts that came to my mind. It's very different versus we're actually working it through and we actually are all on the same page versus we're making it up or we're pretending it's okay. Those are two totally different things.
Yep.
So we might be surprised what we can negotiate.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because, again, that's why the journal is so important. Because as you write it down, you're going to have to look at that. And as you reread it and you go through your list, especially those in the Triple P protocol, that's part of why they have to agree to not be in a dedicated relationship for at least 1 year. It's a time for growth. It's a time for intense research. And also part of Triple P is they give themselves the opportunity and the permission to go out and be somebody they may not have been before. I tell them, This is 365 days of research and living with a brick tossed on the throttle, and do as much as you can with as many people as possible. Because believe it or not, once you learn some of the other protocols that I teach, it's almost easier to do that while you're single. And you make sure that you don't do them alone. You do them with as many different people as possible. Because again, it's research. What is it you like about the crazy dude that you met at da-da-da? What don't you like? What's important about? And you document all of that stuff. And in doing so, those that understand and believe in manifesting, you're putting in your order to the universe. Lenora.
What are some things that your clients do when they're in Triple P to keep investing in themselves? So not necessarily of which our culture, I think, often communicates self-care as bubble baths and candles, but really taking care and exploring themselves. What kind of things do they do? Do they start pushing their limits and not their limits, maybe pushing out of their comfort zone in new and exciting ways? What does that look like for some of them?
Well, obviously, when they're working with me, we go in, we look for any limiting thought processes from the past. We look at any relationships that they've had in the past, including with family and friends. And we look for things that they want to become, what might be holding them back. Because as we know, part of manifesting is you have to create a space for the gift that the universe has for you. You can't say, oh, I want 7 Ferraris. Yes, but you live in a townhouse with no parking. You've got one space and you don't even know how to drive a manual transmission. Well, don't rain on my parade. Well, I'm not saying you can't get them, but you might want to first learn how to drive a manual. And you may want to, become a person that is worthy of owning 7 Ferraris. Well, in the same space as I want a queen, I want a king, you have to be the kind of person that will attract that level of a person. And so in writing your journal and looking at it, we take the time to look in the mirror and go, okay, so what can we work on? And you adjust for those requirements as well. And if in the end you have to become a better person, oh, shucks. And one of the things I went through with one of my clients right now who's going about halfway through Triple P was they had never heard of the introvert, extrovert, introverted, extrovert, extroverted, introvert. And they realized that they were a full-blown introvert. But they were bored. I said, okay, so we went through some scenarios and did some reframing, and now they're looking at ways to get out and meet people for research without it being as much of a drain on their energy as it used to be. And that's part of their changing because they'd been in a couple of relationships. One was with another full-on introvert. You know what they decided about that person? Boring. And I went, wow, coming from a full-on introvert? And they were like, yeah, all we ever did was sit in the house. They didn't even talk much. I went, uh-huh. And so it was an opening into what potentially could they change about themselves to improve the life that they're looking for. And 17 years ago, Mike, Triple P was me going through a few more relationships to get some experience for some input as to how to utilize this to help others. Just like Dr. David said about a lot of the things that a lot of protocols he came up with, I came up with these for me. And that gives us 13 minis for 2 topics, which seems to be pretty common. But before I switch over, and the other 2 kind of are right in line. So any other questions, or should I throw into the others and we'll see what we think about here? I'll take that as next topic. Throwaway love. And the part that you guys don't see on the throwaway love is the word safety behind it. And in this day and age of technological dating, swipe left, swipe right, hookup culture, all the above, throwaway love is becoming way more accepted than it was back in the 70s and 80s. Yes, there was the whole revolution of, free sex, 60s, 70s, stuff like that, which totally disgusted their parents and grandparents. But if the people from the 50s and 60s, the parents of the 50s and 60s, saw some of the stuff going on right now, I would think that their heads would absolutely just explode. I like how Mark shared, I was a doer when I met my wife. She was a beer. She taught me to stop and smell the flowers. Yes, and that's part of the joys of meeting the right people that can help enhance and drive you to be a better person. But I've got somebody right now who I'm very proud of them. They graduated Triple P, have grown immensely, and they happen to meet somebody who turned out to be a hijack. Checked off all sorts of boxes and then found out that this person is charismatic, good looking, had a past relationship end tragically. And so they dove into throwaway love. Swipe left, swipe right, dating a lot of very attractive people for the weekend entertainment system, we'll call it. And they've got the money to do the traveling and stuff like that. So being good looking and having the kind of funds, they're basically living I guess you could call it the rock star lifestyle, and a whole lot of hookups. And when they met my client, they realized, wow, this is marriage potential type person, like, and they've jokingly referenced at getting married many times. And because my client went through triple P and is very in line with their understanding of who their person is, they realized that this was a hijack because they were addicted to the throwaway love and the safety of it. They didn't have to worry about getting attached to these very attractive people. And they were too scared to get attached to my client because they knew if they did, it would hurt when it didn't work out. Fruite limoges, glossy fruit. Yeah. There were a few other titles that came out of that discussion, but I got to keep this family friendly. So, but that's throwaway love. Any input on that before I try and get toxic happiness in before the end of the hour?
I thought it was very interesting the way you titled it. Yeah, I could see that.
Okay. Anybody else before we change over?
I like the concept of taking time to really evaluate yourself, your space, the relationship, the environment, to see whether or not it is a true fit, and then having the ability and the self-respect to be able to bow out as wanted.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, with a number of my clients have, we laugh at their initial response when I tell them that they're not allowed to be in a dedicated relationship for a year, and they're like, what? I came to you for to help me find somebody, and now you're telling me that I've got to wait another year? You know how long I've waited, and now I've got to wait another year? And I'm like, whoa. I didn't say you couldn't go out with people. You're supposed to. You're not supposed to be in a dedicated relationship. Well, I'm not going to just be sleeping around and da-da-da. And I said, no, that's not what I'm saying either. I'm telling you, when you shift your energy, your vision is clearer. When you let them know, I'd like to go out to dinner with you, but I'm going to let you know that I won't be in a relationship until next February because I'm taking time to work on myself. And I will be going out with other people, and I won't be getting in a relationship with them either because I'm taking time to work on myself. And then about 9 months into Triple P, they're like, this is really cool. I mean, like, you know, I've gone out on 4 or 5 different dates, and I could really see what they were like. Like, yeah, what a concept, huh? Oh, them rose-colored glasses were clear? Say it isn't so. And a couple of them had to go through the hard. There's always got to be a couple of them that have to try and do it the hard way. Because as soon as they shift their energy, well, people start showing up, And sure enough, about 2 months into the protocol, they'd be like, I found the perfect one. And I'm like, no, you didn't. And sure enough, about 3 weeks later, you know what they did? I'm like, showed they weren't a king or a queen? Yeah, they're like an 8. I'm like, yeah, but now that you know this, what was your last person? Oh, they were a 6. Oh, so this was the best one you've had so far. Then a few months later, I met the perfect one. Oh, no, you didn't. Yes, they're perfect. 3 weeks later, they're not perfect. Oh, yeah? The last one was an 8. What's this one? They're like a 9. Oh, so the best you've had so far. And they pretty much across the board always keep leveling up. Now, is it because of the journal? Is it because of the work they're doing on themselves? Is it because of the research? Is it all the above? I don't care as long as they keep leveling up. Because enough of them have leveled up to the highest level. Now I've got 3 minutes to tell you what toxic happiness is, but Lenore's going to share something. Yes, I saw that.
I was going to say, I'm amazed you're able to squeeze those in.
Well, toxic happiness. This one's pretty easy. Toxic happiness happens. It's one of those crazy things where people sometimes just like to be. And how dare you come in and bring all your happiness into my environment? Or you go to a restaurant and you and your friend or friends are having a bout of toxic happiness. And it ticks the other people off. And you get those browbeats and like, what are you so happy about? Excuse me? Are you accusing me of toxic happiness? Or have I just shed enough light into your doom and gloom to show you how doomy and gloomy you are? And you have to decide, are you going to dim your light because it's too bright for those around you? Now, you guys probably have noticed that I don't like dimming my light. Yeah, somebody can accuse me of toxic happiness, and I'll take that as a wonderful compliment. And I'll be like, So, what's so important to you about being Eeyore? Oh, bother. What's the matter, Eeyore? I got a nail in my butt. Yeah, but you still got a tail. Yeah, but it drags and stuff. Oh, bother. Well, you know, I got a jug full of honey and life is good, and you can't convince me otherwise. Anybody here ever been accused of toxic happiness? Mm-hmm.
I was writing in the chat, people that I know would tell me I wear rose-colored glasses, and if you then go to counter them, you run the risk of putting yourself in a conversation that you don't want to be in, because then you have to defend and they have to blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm. It's like arguing with the village idiot. All it does is brings everybody's IQ down. You're like, Mark.
I'm going to try this. I don't know if you can hear me.
Right.
Yeah, I get that a lot. They're like, You know, you always seem to be smiling, controlling my state. What are you, high? I say, yeah, on life.
Yes,
Don't let them bring me down.
absolutely. And I truly, it truly breaks my heart when I see people dimming their light because they're too afraid of outshining other people. Go out and give the world a tan. I mean, like, come on, shine that, brighten it up. Let's get crazy. That's why there are certain sounds that are almost kryptonite for the downers in the world. Giggling baby. Puppies. Bunch of bounding, yipping little, as long as they're not like crazy yipping, but when they're in a good mood and, you know, stuff like that. When a group of you are together and you're laughing so hard that you're snorting and you're trying to get everybody to be, that's why the blooper reels at the end of movies are so popular. Toxic happiness. Is there anybody here that hasn't experienced the giggle so bad, so hard, you're afraid you're going to wet yourself, your cheeks hurt, your ribs hurt, and you're like, shut up, don't, everybody be quiet. And it breaks out all over again. Yes. I think the world needs a huge shot of toxic happiness right now. And on that note, I'm very happy that I made it to the first hour, but that brings us to the second hour. And for those of you watching for the first time, whether it be live, oh, by the way, hi, Mom. Got so distractified on technical difficulties that got to say hi to my mom, who watches every week, makes me a happy boy. My mom's awesome. Just saying. And I'm not just saying that because it's my mom. I'm saying that because I know pretty much everybody that knows her verifies it for me. So, yay, love you, Mom. But as much as I could talk about my mom for an hour, we should probably see who's got questions or topics for the second hour. Yes.
I didn't even do anything. I was being courteous.
I know it happens every week.
Well, I might be the backup.
Okay, so everybody's got 10 seconds to get their question in before I make Lenora pull one out of her notebook. 5 seconds. Now they're all curious as to what question you've got.
Apparently. So I have 2 questions for everybody. Okay, I will just go with the first one first. What do you so I have tea bags that I like to drink. I'm a big tea person, and one of them gives little fortune like cookies, and they'll write a little description on it. Sometimes it's a quote, sometimes it's an inspiring message, and single-handedly, guys, this is the only reason I buy this tea, because they make me so happy. And one of them had said, every neighbor is a teacher. So I thought that was really interesting, because I think that's something that we've agreed on, teaching us whether we liked something or teaching us we don't like something, and being able to see it like that. But then my brain took a hold of this and it went further. What if money is also a teacher? I thought it was very interesting. And if so, what are the lessons? What are you learning?
Awesome. Now, for those of you that are on the call for the first time, and those of you watching out in YouTube land and watching the recording, on Triple T, second hour is open mic, open platform. Anybody gets to ask a question or bring up a topic, and I let everybody on the call answer first. And if I've got anything else to share, I will do that because I like to learn as well. And if I go and throw my stuff out there first, I might taint some of the answers that I didn't get. So who's got some input, insights? Holly.
Wow, that's a big one. I could probably go forever. I definitely want to hear other people's answers too. So I would say, first of all, yes, money absolutely is a teacher. And I think it teaches a lot of different things depending on the moment that you're in your life. So one of the lessons I know that commonly comes up is deservingness. So money can teach you what you feel like you deserve. There are times in our lives where, what is your attitude when other people get money? Are you happy for them? Are you excited for them? Are you proud of them for making progress in their life? Or are you resentful? Are you calling them grasping and saying, oh, this person must have done something unethical to get this money? I think that's going to tell you, we call it the money, but it's true for every single aspect of life. Money is just a really place where you can see it kind of clearly. We were talking about toxic happiness. Are you a toxic happiness person? Or when somebody else is happy and they're shining their bright light, do you encourage them to shine brighter? Another thing it could teach you, I think that sometimes we go through periods of our life where, when it comes to manifesting, I'm one of these people that I believe that, as part of that process of becoming the person who can have it, sometimes we have to go through the dark times to be able to have the light times, study that shadow side of ourselves. If you have very little money, are you still able to be happy? Or is your happiness solely based on, your checkbook and your bank balance? Another part of it is, I think, money is just it's kind of a flow of energy. And, if we have blocks, it can stop the energy from flowing. But I think a part that people forget a lot, unless the universe is trying to teach us a lesson of, how to be okay when you're low money, how to be okay when you're high money, I think those things do happen. But other than that, the number one thing that affects the flow of money is negotiation. And when you are having a relationship with somebody, if you're providing value, then they return value to you. And so a lot of times if we don't have money, now granted, part of it might be because we don't believe we deserve it, so we're turning it off and looking in the mirror for some of this stuff. But a lot of times, a lot of times the money, if you're not getting it, the hard truth, if you look at in the mirror, is I'm being taught that I'm not providing value. I'm being taught that I'm so selfish that I'm not listening to their needs. I'm not eliciting their criteria and their values. I'm not listening to them. I'm only looking at what I want. And then the one final one that I'll throw in there is short-term versus long-term. You could get money in the short term by sacrificing it in the long term. And that is where I think a lot of, we talk about the love of money is the root of all evil. When you love money too much and you're too desperate for it, and this could go for things other than money too. It could go for love. It could go for all sorts of things. If you get too desperate, that's when you start maybe sacrificing your morality, doing stupid things. So, we talk about sales, for example. If you want to lie and cheat and be very aggressive and ignore the criteria and values of the person in front of you, you might be able to make a lot of money in the short term. But the price you will always pay is sacrificing money in the long term. Whereas if you're willing to be honest, we talk about that Macy's effect of, hey, I really am not the best bet for you. In the short term, you may not make the sale, but in the long term, you are building a trust with your customers that they're going to refer people to you. They're going to want to do business with you in the future. You're building a reputation. So, or we talk about like a CEO goes into a company. There's a lot of things they could do to destroy the profitability of the company to make short-term gains. But anytime you do something to make short-term money that's unethical, you always pay in the long term for that. Because what you're doing, you're not robbing your customers. You may think you are. I mean, and granted, that's part of it. You are really robbing future you. That's where you get the money. And also, I will say it's also a measure of discipline too. Do you constantly get into debt for, now it's one thing to get into debt for a business or for a mortgage or, you know, something that's actually an investment. But are you getting into debt because you want to have the fun and you want to buy all the useless things before you've earned it? And that's another place where I'm going to rob future me to pay for unnecessary, silly, non-invest. And once again, I'm not saying never treat yourself, any of that. But when you're getting excessive with it, I'm going to rob future me and pay tomorrow with interest so that I can have something I don't need and don't even really want today because I have no self-discipline. So anyway, I know that's like a lot, and I'm sure there's even more. That's my 2 cents.
I feel like I should clap, Holly. Like, that was amazing. That was awesome.
Absolutely.
When's your book coming out, Holly? Highly recommend.
Mark.
Again, I don't know how well I'm being heard, but I've treated a fair number of millionaires, and they, you know, again, they failed to, you know, money failed to teach them, you know, that money can't buy happiness, and if you're not happy inside, you know, no amount of money will make you happy, and you know, it's just because if you put everything, take everything of true value and put that on the fire to get that number in your head that you think, if I just had that much money, then I'd be happy. And they burn down relationships and everything of true value in people's lives. And then they get to that number and they're like, they're still not happy. And they're like, it just becomes a, you know, and then, you know, you know, wow, maybe if I had twice as much as that, maybe then I'd be, and it's just, again, it's just the, you know, like I said, it can teach us things, or it can fail to teach us, you know, what's the true value.
Yep. Good stuff. Anybody else got anything? Salvo.
Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So I'm driving, so I'm not going to use the camera. I wanted to share with you my view on money, and hopefully this can be at least remotely helpful to someone. So about 12 years ago, when I started my car dealership, I looked at it as my baby, like as a part of me, almost like mom and a baby are connected through the cord. And I didn't expect anything from that baby. I just wanted to nourish and nurture and love that thing. And I was doing some other jobs on the side to be able to pay my bills. And I just, you know, nurtured the baby, and baby grew into a big, powerful business that can run itself. And it's a similar concept. Even before that, gosh, this was more than 15 years ago. I had my MMA gym, and the way this worked really well. I had, Jesus, like many more than 50 students, you know, men and women, a martial arts studio, and that was also part of me. It was like something, a passion. I didn't see it as a separate entity. I saw it as like as I see my family. And so now recently, for last maybe like 7 years, I've been building hypnotherapy business, and it's really hard for me. Like, first, because my vocabulary is not as nearly as good as any of you here are native speakers. So it's been a challenge, and also it's been a challenge because a lot of other things are happening in my life and running the other business. But I see this business as my baby, and I see that as a part of me. And even if it doesn't fail, even if it fails, which is really hard, I think like right now I'm really getting a good hang of it, and people are recognizing that business is going better. And I am not, even if it doesn't work, I'm okay. I think that attitude and ultimate love and passion can help people not just build business and make money for the sake of making money, because I believe money is just energy, and it's like just also it's just energy. Yeah. And yeah, I hope that this insight can be helpful to someone, just being very, very sincere about the way I look at it.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate you sharing.
That was great,
Thank
Savo.
you.
Thank you.
Linda.
Okay, let me see if I can articulate this in a way that makes sense, but I think money is a proxy. So if you're an ego person, you'll try to express the ego through money. As in the millionaires getting all the money and then they think they're going to be happy because they have satisfied their ego. So the money is a proxy for ego. If you don't have money, sometimes money is a proxy for the bad guy. You blame your problems on the fact that you don't have money. You think that your problems will be solved if you did have money. Money also serves as a demonstration to yourself about your own values. If you're, conservative with money, you'll try to not spend it, and put it in the bank, save it for the future. If money is to you all about, spend it today, enjoy today, live fast, die young, then you'll probably spend all your money and not worry about the future. Money's also a tell, because if you're a generous person, you'll give money to other people. You'll do things for other people with it. You'll give money to charity. So I think that what happens in a lot of ways is that money is actually a proxy for some of the deepest motivations. And it's a way to express those motivations in our society. Now that's, current Western society. I don't know about Eastern societies and all the rest of that kind of stuff. I don't know for a fact that it, carries over, but that's what I think. I think money's a proxy.
Awesome. Anybody else got anything before I
Very interesting.
jump in? Yes, no. And Linda's got a very good point, and the way I've expressed it is money makes you more of who you already are. If you're a kind, giving person and you come into money, it'll make you more of a kind, giving person. If you're a sadistic, uptight butthole, money definitely amplifies that. You've seen, I'm sure we've all at least witnessed one person who, because they had money, thought that they could do whatever they want. Money, if you want some good insights onto the mentality around money, as much as he torqued me off, he had some really good insights. T. Harv Ekker's book, Millionaire Mindset, and the thought processes that he had regarding money, of, all the things that we were taught as kids and things that were said to us as kids. And if you look at a good portion of the world's population, a vast majority of people will rise to the level of what their parents were, because it'll be belief processes surrounding and expressions like, well, what do you think? Money grows on trees? Where do you think you're going to get that from? You know, we don't have those kinds. We don't have that kind of money. They do, but we don't. And you get that imprint. And when you said, you know, our neighbors' teachers, absolutely. Because we're looking, as humans, we will compare. And so you look at your neighbors and, well, what do they have and that we don't? And what do we have that they don't? And why might that be? And that's why when I work with my clients, especially around money beliefs, I came up with a protocol of financial thermostat. And for anybody that understands how thermostats work, like in your house, you have a set range, a temperature where when it gets there, the furnace will come on. And when it gets too hot, the AC comes on. Well, when you think of a financial thermostat, we have a level that we set for ourselves. If our financial status gets too low, that furnace will kick on and get the fire lit under our feet that I'm not going to be homeless. I will not live under, I will do some type of job. I will do anything that will pay to keep me inside of a house. But there's also the trained upper level, which is why you see so many people that win the lottery and within 2 years have lost everything right back to the level that they were when they won the ticket. Because they got that money and their psyche goes, we're not the type of person that has 2.8 million. No. And the AC comes on and it chills that out. And we make stupid choices and this and that. And all of a sudden, bada boom, bada bing, we're right back into that comfort zone. And that's where I like to, take, for example, regardless of what you think of him, this is not going to go political, and I don't want to hear about it. And for those of you that are about to start typing, hands off the keyboard. But if you take Trump and stripped him of all of his money and put him into Nowhereville, in a short amount of time, as he has done before, he would be back up to multimillionaire status because his financial thermostat will not accept that low end. If you tell any of his kids, yeah, there is a TV show, Grant Cardone, same idea. Once they've set their financial thermostat, you take away everything, they will go out and they will get back up to their comfort zone. And a vast majority of first-time millionaires, especially a vast majority of first-time multimillionaires, will tell you the first million was the hardest, the second one was easy. And Jim Rohn said, in becoming the millionaire, it's not about the money, it's who you become to make the money. And that's why once they get to that point, they've built that financial thermostat up to a level where the next million, well, I am a millionaire. I identify as a millionaire. Money comes to me easily. Bada bing, bada bing. So,
Oh, you were talking about Jim Rohn, and he says something like, "How valuable are you to the marketplace?" And he goes, "Maybe you're valuable in the eyes of God and spirituality, maybe your family, but maybe you're not worthy, on the marketplace." And that's something that would trigger a lot of people. I noticed that people take that context, and then they feel, because it's a really a part of themselves that lives in the shadow. So this is basically what happens. So you take someone who is very unconscious, not this beautiful group of self-aware people. And so you take someone who is very unconscious, usually very angry, and does the job 9 to 5, whatever. And so you tell them that they are not as valuable on the marketplace as Elon Musk, and they'll get frustrated. Most people go, "Fuck that! My value, my worth is not dependent on money." And where the truth is that this is the aspect of our life. In this context, there is something called evaluation scale or hierarchy, and some people are more valuable and they can give more to others, therefore they can have more for themselves. I think Zigzag said something like that. Anyway, Zagler, whatever his name was, he was a brilliant salesperson and also a great teacher. And so I would like just was bringing this up to say that it's also good to notice how valuable we are on the marketplace, and without judgment or criticism or being proud, just observation. It really helped me to realize that. And yeah, I really changed my view on money. And in my car dealership, when I made my first $1 million, I felt as if nothing has happened. I looked at it, I was like, "Oh, okay." And it wasn't like this huge thing that I cannot amount to. It was more like, "Oh, it's just a number." And so that's that. That's all I have. If anybody
awesome.
else.
And I
Awesome,
appreciate you
guys.
sharing that, because you did bring up a very good, valid point that Jim Rohn brought up was, do you get paid for the hour that you're at work? And of course the crowd was like, yeah. He goes, no. If you got paid just for being there, everybody would be making money, because all you'd have to do is show up and be there. You get paid for the value that you bring to the marketplace. That's why there are certain people that their skill sets and their abilities are rare enough that they make what we like to refer to as stupid money. They make so much money, they can do stupid things with their money because they've got enough money to do that. Mike.
One of the things that I struggle with, I grew up in a difficult house. Father was a narcissist, mental abuse, physical abuse, and he was a salesman that his spin on sales was to break your will, and that makes you more easily moldable. So my self-esteem, my self-awareness, anything that is higher level thought has really been demolished from birth. So, I mean, I make good money. I'm a home inspector, and the things I buy are things that will enable me to do something more. I have a barbecue that's made out of 1,000-gallon propane tank that I could feed 1,000 or 500 people off of. I have a 25-gallon stock pot that I've made boiled crawfish for 200 people. And that is what fills my self, my personality, myself, whatever. And that is something that I struggle with, is that void. And so that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to learning more about.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And these are a lot of the things you pointed out perfectly, that at least you know the foundation of where that belief system, those values and criteria came from. And now you get the option of looking at the fact that you're over the age of 18. And since that point on, all your choices are now yours. You don't get to blame your parents, your friends, where you grew up, what you've done. You get to take control when you're ready and become the person that you would like to be. And sadly, some people never even get that enlightenment. They spend the rest of their life blaming where they came from and their parents and who they hung around with and where they grew up and all of the things that used to be, and use that as a pointer to where they're headed.
And that comes from a place of calm and peace and another perspective from the outside, not just on money, but on just living life within your own mind and own body.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So,
and I appreciate you coming on here and sharing that. Sabo.
I just want to say briefly, Mike, I don't know you. I didn't even see your face here on Zoom. But I want to say that I very much, what I hear when you spoke was that there is first the sense of humbleness and openness to new learnings. When you say that you're here to learn more and see where that gets you, kind of, and then you're also very honest and open. That's my evaluation of what you've said. You talked about the relationship with your father and stuff, and just want to acknowledge that. And I want to say that it feels to me as a therapist that you're on the right path, whatever that path is, because you have these components of conscientiousness, openness, and it feels like you are also very saying the truth. So that was just my 2 cents on that.
thank you. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Anybody else got anything to share?
I think amazing insights from everyone. Mm-hmm.
Are we ready for another question or topic? And if so, who's going to step up to the plate? Come on. Really?
I'm going to say Mark unmuted.
Yes, Mark.
I don't know. Yeah, again, I had a question. Again, that keeps popping up, what's wrong with this country? And we have such a beautiful group of self-aware people here, but we have a drug addicted society. And I was watching a podcast earlier, and the guy started out saying that, when you have an aquarium, that's dirty, you don't drug the fish so he doesn't notice that he's living in a polluted environment. And that's kind of what's been going on in this country from all the aspects of that. But and of course, then it's like, then the question comes in, okay, how do we fix it? Because, but we're living in a drug addicted society where everybody wants a pill to fix it, and but we have to make people aware that, like I said, we consume 90% of all the pharmaceuticals produced worldwide, which is an amazing number. And but they said the kind of a deep rabbit hole. But again, how do we fix it? How do we make everybody like us self-aware? I guess that's my question.
And there's the $1.5 million question. Who's got answers for Mark's question?
I don't want to make everybody like me, certainly. That would be a really tough place to be in.
I think we lost you, Sabo. You got a chance.
I was just saying that I don't want to make everybody like me. It would be pretty tough for people to live through all the shit that I lived through. So
yeah.
I'll let them have their choice.
Exactly. And I appreciate you sharing that. Mike.
I'm kind of interested in the whole study of living proactively versus reactively. And I think proactively, you have the insight and the time to really delve into issues and be able to take the time to see where you fit in and all the other problems in the world around you.
Bless you.
Where other individuals who have families and work and mortgage and 2 jobs or all these things, they probably are working more reactively. So then you're thinking about, if you are breaking out emotionally, like complaining to get companionship, to get that conversation started, to gain community, which is a self-regulating issue, which makes you feel better being part of a community. Unfortunately, it is of negative generation. So, but it is still feeding that sense of community. And so when I think about these reactions, I think about what the source is and what that's fulfilling, and that taking the time to work on yourself is work. It takes energy and it takes that calmness, where being reactive, just jumping in around the smoking pole and getting onto the bandwagon is so much easier and easy community. Probably a lot like the same with money.
Yep. Thanks for sharing that. Holly.
Okay, so I've had a number of thoughts with this. So first of all, one of the things coming up for those who studied, Kujian and things like that, there's this concept called Zen. And part of that is that as you, get to higher levels of consciousness, a lot of what you do, a lot of what you talk about, it literally can't be understood by somebody who's at a level under you. It's basically invisible to them. And one of the things that always comes up to me is, because, it's not like it's a switch and people are enlightened and self-aware and there are people who are not enlightened and self-aware. It's a progress. It's a, and so there are people who, and it's in different areas too. So, you might be in one area in personal relationships, another area in money, and like there's all sorts of areas of our lives. I know there are people who are higher than me in a lot of areas that it's invisible to me and I can't understand, and I'm not ready for that wisdom. So part of this is recognizing you cannot ever force somebody to a higher level of wisdom. And if you try to share it, they call that casting pearls before swine. There's not only can they not understand it, they're going to get angry if you try to explain it. But there is something you can do, and that is basically living your best life and putting the resources out there so that when people are ready, they have somewhere to find it. But you have to honor their progress. You have to honor their system and give them their free will just as you have your own free will. But there is something else that comes up. So there's two concepts. They're kind of the same. The concept of responsibility and the concept of healthy boundaries. So when it comes to responsibility, so I was reading, I think it's 48 Rules of Power or something. It was one of the Robert Greene books. Anyway, he mentioned something to the effect of, we like to blame our leaders and be like, oh, our leaders are so corrupt, they're so evil, it's all their fault. But if you look at most systems, the leaders are a reflection of those who put them into power in most cases. And I started looking, and basically the point is, if you got rid of all of the leaders, we were talking about the money, if you got rid of all of somebody's money and they're rich, they're probably going to get back up to that point very soon. If you give them a bunch of money and they have a poor mindset, they're going to get poor very, very soon. If you got rid of all of a country's leaders, chances are what look like carbon copies of those leaders would be in all those positions very, very soon. And part of that is because I think that in our society, we have something that I like to call collective irresponsibility, where we're in systems where we can blame other people and not take ownership of things and be like, well, I just don't have the power to do that. I don't have the influence to do that. So if you're in a corporation, I think I may have said this one before, but if I'm a frontline employee, well, I'm just doing what I'm told to by my boss. If you're the CEO, I'm just doing what I'm been told to by the board of directors and the shareholders. And if you're the shareholder, well, I don't even know I'm a shareholder because it's just part of a mutual fund that I own that's part of my retirement. And so I don't even show up for the board meetings, and I'm just, trading based on what makes money. I'm not paying attention to what's going on, or I'm a customer. Well, it's not my job to figure out who they hire. I'm just buying an end product. And basically you have a system, and, this goes in the country as well, of, I'm not the governor. Oh, well, maybe I am the governor, but I'm not the president. Oh, I'm the president, but I'm not the state legislature or the federal legislature. It's meant to be that way. There's meant to be multiple people with multiple stakeholders. But the problem is everybody is waiting for somebody else to step up because they think they don't have ownership. Now, obviously, nobody can take ownership of everything. But I think the big part starts with taking ownership of what you can take ownership of and recognizing what is it that I'm not taking ownership of that I could be taking ownership of. And if we, if even 10% of us did that, our entire world could shift dramatically.
Yep.
So.
Well said. Again, girl, if you hear some of the stuff that you say, blows my mind. One thing I want to add to that is those of us in this tribe being agents of change have the ability to change as many as we can get a hold of. And as long as we do the best we can with the tools, knowledge, and energy we have available to us, we can make a change. Keep going out recruiting people, changing people, opening as many eyes as possible. And one thing, the Chinese calendar points out that this is a year of the awakening. And if you've tapped into the world news at all, you'll notice that it's happening in Ireland and Germany and France. The collective of the people have reached the tipping point and said enough. And so it's going to be a wild ride. And again, as agents of change, we got to be ready for it, but use what I like to refer to as airplane protocol. When the oxygen mask falls, who do you put it on first? Yourself, so that you can help others. And Linda posted that she's got a question. So if nobody else has any input on that, then we're going to allow others to allow Linda to ask her question.
I would like to know how the individuals in this group define enlightened or enlightenment.
Good question. Who got answer?
That is an amazing question, Linda. I think there's levels and layers. So more enlightened as in more self-aware, and however it expands from there. And being enlightened, at least to me, is very open-minded, very growth-minded, thinking about it, looking at it as a possibility, observing it and really exploring it and seeing how much deeper, but also how much higher it can take you.
Awesome. Savo.
When I think about enlightenment, I think about Christ consciousness. I think about, let's say, metaphorically speaking, let's say the devil was just the darkest dark shadow, one big shadow where there is no light, and then Christ was a being of light. And then if we think about shadow work, for people who understand what shadow work is, it's like looking at all different aspects of ourselves. So more we shine the light on different parts of ourselves, more enlightened we can be, because even the smallest, tiniest candle is stronger than the darkest dark. So bringing the light into different parts of us is what, for me personally, I consider enlightenment.
Good answer. Holly.
Love all of the other answers. They're bringing up all sorts of stuff for me. So a couple things that I think of. So first of all, of course, I think of that idea of you're in a room, you think you understand everything there is, but the light's off and you're reaching around and touching and feeling. You turn the light on. How does your perspective change? How much more do you understand about that room? But there is an analogy that I believe it was Dr. Viktor Frankl uses this analogy, where he talks about what if you had a world, and I may have shared this before, but you had a world that was, shall we say, two-dimensional. And you are a three-dimensional being, and you're trying to teach the truth is a coffee cup. And you're trying to explain that to people who live in 2D land. And he was saying one of the ways you could do it, let's imagine that you shine a light and you let them see the shadow of the cup. Now, they probably will never fully be able to understand the cup, but they can get little glimpses of understanding. And anyway, so one of the things that he was saying is you're going to have people who are on the wall that are going to think that a coffee cup is a rectangle. And then you're going to have people who are on the floor where you're shining the light from a different angle who think the truth is a circle. And you as a three-dimensional being are trying to, communicate this really, really complicated truth. And the real truth is both a rectangle and a circle. You need to put those together. You need to take all of these different perspectives. So when I think of enlightenment, I kind of think of that, shining the light from all sorts of different angles and constantly learning something new and piecing everything together. And You know, it may be a lifetime of doing stuff. You may have to talk with people over on that wall. You may have to, you know, put all of that information together, but it's just kind of those insights of understanding the universe, understanding our purpose, understanding, you know, principles of the universe, how it works, why it works, you know, what is it, all of that sort of thing. The more we understand, the more enlightened I believe we become.
Have you guys noticed how when we encourage Holly, her answers just become so brilliant, better and better every time? And it's like, yeah, Holly, you can write a book. That's great stuff tonight. Thank you.
So is enlightenment a process, a state of being, a state of mind, or a state of self-awareness?
Yes.
For the record, I knew he was going to say that. That's why I nodded first.
Well,
saw that coming. I'm surprised it wasn't it depends.
yes, that was the next one. Is it depends, because when the question came up, I had a couple of different thought processes, and one's a noun, one's a verb. The other one was, it's like one is watching television and the other is creating the show, putting on the show, being in the television. Another one that came up was one is watching the NASCAR race and the other one is being in the car. There's gathering enlightenment in the process, and becoming enlightened, I think, is the difference between the gathering of the information and the moment of the aha. You can read so many books and be in the process of enlightenment, and then all of a sudden that day when it all clicks, and now you're enlightened, you're like, oh. Especially when you realize, I've learned enough to realize there's so much to learn. And you look at the people who haven't even read a book. I just had a quote of those who have traveled understand the book. Those who have not even read the first page. There's so much to know that even just knowing that it's out there is the touch of enlightenment. And seeing how much there is, I think, is when you become enlightened. And for those of us on this call, I know that we've all hit some degree in that stage, or we wouldn't invest the time to be on a call like this. So I don't know if that muddied or helped, but that's my 2 centavos.
So enlightenment is assimilation and comprehension of a type of knowledge, depending on what it is you're enlightened about. Would that be fair?
Yeah, another one that a squirrel just delivered to me would be enlightenment, would be discovering the lake. Enlightened is when you jump in and realize a lot of water here. I got to learn to swim. Anybody else got anything to add to that?
Wouldn't it also be understanding that you are the lake? And that the lake is you?
Depends on how enlightened you are.
Yes.
Okay.
One step further. That's what yes. And those those who cannot hear the music thought the dancers were crazy.
Good quote.
And that leaves us with 4 minutes in grace on the second hour because we had to start late due to technical challenges and learning opportunities. Basically on me. So anybody got any final ahas, epiphanies, things they'd like to share about all the stuff we covered tonight?
I was going to ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead. We've got grace because we started late.
Going off of Linda's question with enlightenment, what are some of the ways that you've experienced your deepest levels of enlightenment?
Are you asking me, Lenora?
Everyone. I heard a laugh in there.
The answer is AAA webinar.
Did you say AAA webinar?
Yes.
I love that. We're going to have to post that link there, Sabo.
I think you all helped me traverse through that region every week on here. And hopefully I help you guys as well for a little enlightenment. Mark.
I feel like that's a resounding yes.
Good quote, Mark. Enlightenment is being touched by the light. Enlightened is becoming the light. Which is why I love this tribe. You guys are flippin' amazing. Anybody else got anything to close her up? Or we're gonna...
I feel like now everybody's in a state of like enlightenment and expansion.
Mike's gonna come in with a choral finish. Mike.
Well, I wish I could. This is, I think you surround yourself with individuals like this, and that helps raise you up and open your mind and all that other stuff. I had intentions of talking about a buddy of mine who is going through alcohol withdrawal in the hospital really bad, and for the last 4 years I've known the guy and understanding the rigors of alcoholism, and I'm learning how to maintain boundaries and know that no matter what, that disease will always possibly turn them back into lying and being a weight on your person and life. And in the conversation that we've had earlier about being hijacked is a great reminder and refresher and a different perspective of how to maintain not only our relationship, but also my boundaries and my self-respect. So I thank you for being able to bridge that.
Awesome. And I appreciate you sharing that. And when you were describing that, my famous squirrels delivered another analogy that lifeguards are taught right away that when somebody is drowning, you throw them the life ring, but you stay far enough away for them so they don't grab onto you, because they will pull you down with them.
And I have felt that tug.
Yes. You have to be able to trust in the life buoy, whatever. You throw that so that there's enough distance to save them with the rope attached to pull them to safety. But while they're thrashing and fighting, that's the most dangerous time for a lifeguard, because if they get too close, that person can end up drowning both of them.
Good information. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else before we respectfully time out? Well, then it's time for me to once again thank you guys so much for the gift of your precious commodity of time, because I always say it's the one thing that I cannot reproduce and give back to you. So for you to share your precious commodity so selflessly here on this platform to help others, I don't have the vocabulary to thank you properly. I hope that you all got something from this. For those of you out in YouTube land, love you, Mom. And for those of you still watching the recording, thank you. Again, please share these videos anywhere as often as you can with anybody that needs to hear it. I don't do this for my glory. I do it so that we can help others. Make sure you click the subscribe and ring the bell and leave comments, and then comment on your comments and comment on other people's comments and have fun with it. And if you think of anything that you would like for a topic, reach out to me. I would love, or bring it yourself for the second hour next time. Make sure you write them down. And until then, please go out, make the world a better place. Live life to the fullest. Suffer from toxic happiness. And annoy people with your amazing bright lights. And know that you are loved, and I adore all of you. Until next week. See you guys.
Good night, everybody. Nice tie, TJ.
Thanks. I got bugs on it.
But Thank you, everyone. Thanks, DJ. Hey, guys.